Welcome to Criteria and Constraints. This week we are going to talk about what is criteria and what are constraints. This will help you with your science work in grade 3, week 29 of the NYC DOE Science Curriculum. Today we're going to talk about what are criteria, then we're going to do an activity on criteria, then we'll do the same thing for constraints. What are constraints? And we will complete an activity with the constraints. What is criteria? We have criteria for many things in life. The criteria for getting the laundry done, for example, is to have the clothes clean, dry, folded, and put away. The criteria for a properly working computer is it has to turn on, it's charged or is charging, the screen is clear and easy to read, I have to be able to type, use its applications, and many other things. Criteria, simply put, is what a project needs in order to work properly. So, if something, a task, object, event, etc., doesn't meet all of its basic criteria, it is not functioning properly. How you get it there is up to you, but it needs to get there and it needs to work properly. So let's brainstorm some criteria together. Let's look at something we all know and hopefully love: homework. What are some criteria for turning in homework? Another way to look at it is, when I turn my homework in, to get 100%, I need to have the following. Pause the video here and write down 2 to 3 criteria. This should take you about 2 minutes. Go ahead. Okay, did you pause it? I hope you paused it. I bet you did. Did you write it down? I bet you wrote down your criteria. Cool. Let's go over some examples that I came up with. Yours might be the same, but you may have some additional ones. But I thought, these seem like some pretty basic criteria that you need to have on your homework to make sure that you get 100%. The first thing, you need to write your name on top of your homework. How else are they supposed to know whose homework it is? 2, you need to complete all the instructions. 3, you need to turn it in on time. And 4, you need to give your paper to your teacher. That seems pretty important for turning in your homework. Or you need to turn it in online. So we've talked about criteria. Now let's talk about constraints. Constraints are the things, events, or materials that prevent your project, task, or invention from working. So it's like the stuff that gets in the way. So, for example, if I have a computer, the constraints for getting my computer to work, let's say I broke my screen, I lost the cord, I don't have the right fitting cord, so it can't charge, so it's just dead. Maybe I don't have the right mouse that goes with the computer. Maybe I'm missing keys on the keyboard. There are a lot of ways that your computer can not be working, or many different things that can get in the way of your computer meeting its basic criteria of functioning. On the next slide, we're going to do an example together so you can get a better idea of what constraints are. So before we went through and we figured out, what are some criteria for turning in your homework? Okay, let's talk about the constraints for turning in your homework. What is going to get in the way of you meeting your basic criteria? You're going to go through and pause the video here and write down 2 to 3 ideas in your notebooks. Go ahead and pause here. All right, did you pause it? Did you write it down? I bet you did. If you didn't, pause again and go back and finish your assignment. Speaking of assignments, what are some constraints that can prevent you from turning in your homework? All right, there are so many reasons, and I have heard all of the different constraints, but here are just 7 that I came up with. 1, not having a pencil or a writing utensil to put your name down. Not reading or understanding the directions. No instructions were given. You are absent, so you can't turn it in. Your internet isn't working, so you can't turn it in. Your dog ate your homework, or you missed class, so you don't know what to do. Hopefully, you wrote down some of these, maybe you have your own. A quick recap. In today's video, we defined what criteria and constraints are, gave examples of both terms, and we did a brainstorming activity about criteria and constraints of an everyday activity.